Somebody needs to slow the calendar down. How are you doing?
Time warp. It's a time warp.
It's a time warp, man. It's like,
yeah.
What is today?
We went in this wormhole and we came out ahead. That's all it was.
I don't know what's happening. Yesterday. Like summer slowed down 1 minute. Guys, happy Monday. Welcome to Manufacturing Monday Motivation. Damon, man, we have a powerhouse guest today. I've been looking forward to this for months. We have Jeremiah Sinks in the house, and he's from the Purdue Manufacturing Extension Partnership, the MEP in the great state of Indiana. Jeremiah, good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
Fantastic. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Really pumped up about today and hanging out with you guys and whoever's watching this with us.
Absolutely. So, hey, if anybody's out there, just, drop a note. You want to connect with Jeremiah here on LinkedIn, and we're going to take a deep dive. Boy, Jeremiah, you are doing some amazing work. I dropped some of your videos in the chat box here.
Yep.
Guys, you want to connect with Jeremiah on LinkedIn. You want to do yourself a favor, check out his videos. Go to the Purdue MEP website and you can learn more. So, Jeremiah, let's just dig in. You have a great background on manufacturing, I believe mining, construction. I'm going to take a step back a little bit. Let's go back in time to share a little bit about your background and what led, and then we'll slide into how you ended up at the Purdue MEP.
Sure, definitely. I spent over 10 years in the automotive industry. And when I left there, I was part of a group. We went into this very small town in northwestern Indiana, and we had to build and then operate this massive production facility. It was a 287-acre facility, $350 million project. It was in White County, Indiana, and it was the biggest investment in White County by about $348 million. They had seen nothing like it. We got that place up and running. It was a fabulous, fabulous time in my life. We not only built the plant, the facilities, the processes, and everything that goes along with it. It really helped me launch into the work I do today because among all the physical and process type things, one of the things we wanted to build with some serious intent was our culture. We wanted to have genuine leadership and build a tremendous culture. And we did that. It was an absolute home run. Still to this day, when I run into people from that time, they're all over the country running plants and doing things. And they say, I've still never experienced anything like that. It was just fabulous. So we got that place up and running, and our commodity, I'll keep this short and sweet, but our commodity went from $174 a ton down to $38 a ton. Yes. You can only out-efficient so many things. You can only cost down so much. So the unfortunate thing was we ended up having to close that place down. Now, as we saw that coming, we were transparent about it the whole way. Every one of us, our views were that we employed families, and this was a serious thing. If people were going to lose their jobs, we didn't want people to show up one day and find out we're closed. We wanted to help people transition onto their next job. Right. So what we started doing was, we gave everyone the 2-month warning notice, but we were open about it way before that. So it was no genuine surprise. We just kept hoping, right, that the price would come up so we could make it. And once we saw it wasn't going to rebound in time, we gave the notice, and then myself and some other folks, we started reaching out to the other companies and manufacturers in the Lafayette area, in that whole area, saying, you won't believe the people we have that work here, their character, their attitude, their motivation. You won't believe these employees. So we said, come on out onto our property. And we were having job fairs and trying to help our folks get on to the next job. And as they were working, if they wanted to come talk to one of these companies, we'd find someone to cover for them and they could come in. It was all about people. It was all about families and us doing the best we could to help them transition on. So word started getting around that this was something unique, a little different than most companies do. And someone said to me, where your heart and mind seem to be on the people side and doing the right types of things, you might want to talk to these people over at Purdue MEP. I said, I've never heard of Purdue MEP.
What is an MEP, right?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So someone introduced me to them, and we liked each other, obviously, and now here we are.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Jeremiah, that's a great. Thanks for sharing that story. Damon, what do you got?
Well, yeah, I just think it's so, your story is so timely given the fact that over the last couple of years we heard these horror stories about, and even today I was reading again about somebody just logging in, they don't have access, and when they call in, it's like, hey, you were laid off. They didn't even tell them. Or the people that have done it over a mass Zoom call and stuff, and it's like,
Right.
this kind of thing is just, it can be done right. Like you said, it's a bad situation, but you make the best of it, or you can make it even worse.
Right. Yeah, it's disappointing. I come across those stories as well, and it's just absolutely disappointing. It's good to be a good human being.
Yeah.
You
sleep a little better.
You sleep a little better. So, Jeremiah, so let's dig into this. So you're a senior services manager. You're big on leadership development, and you mentioned you are with the Purdue MEP. Let's take a deep dive there for anybody out there like, hey, MEP, what on earth does that stand for? Of course, we're talking about the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, but just share a little bit about what is the MEP, what's going on at Purdue MEP specifically.
Sure, definitely. I'd love to. So we are, first and foremost, I like people to understand we are a nonprofit. We're primarily funded by NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and we do get some grants from the state for different things. But essentially, the way I always like to talk about our group, where organizations have a desire or a need to be bigger, better, faster, safer, smarter in some way, shape, or form, we know a guy. We got an abundance of experts in-house, people like me who have done this stuff in real life. We don't come in and talk about something we read in a book one time. Man, we have the miles and we have the years behind us. And so whatever way people need help, we probably know somebody. So we come in and we help them.
Right.
We do usually get a pretty good ROI. So we track impact. NIST always wants to know what's the bang for the buck, right? Yeah. So we track the impact. And I think the last numbers I saw, companies who do work with us, their ROI is $14 for every $1 they spend.
Nice.
So that can be in food, that can be in lean, that can be in Six Sigma, that can be, you name it. We have, again, an abundance of experts and obviously leadership.
Right. So let's slide into that. So again, music to our ears, 14-1 return on investment. Dude, that is absolutely phenomenal. We're blessing, Damon and I, we know a number of your teammates, our dear friend, Gene Jones, Art, Bill, Kyle, Julie, Michelle, we could go on and on. Just share a little bit of when, people are like, hey, boy, you're intriguing me, Jeremiah. Tell me some more. Talk about some of, we're going to dig deep into your superpowers. You do an amazing job with leadership and workforce development, but just share some of the other folks in your team. If somebody knocks on that Purdue MEP door, what can they expect with that engagement?
Well, like you mentioned, several names and a lot more. We're blessed for the people we have.
Yeah.
You've got folks like, Art. He's done a lot of lean and Six Sigma stuff over the years. We've got this guy, Ed Lava, one of my favorite instructors. We believe he has done more value stream maps than anyone on the planet. And we're really kind of half exaggerating about that.
Right.
He can come in and he can follow your process and help organizations understand where they're wasting time, money, resource, whatever, in a heartbeat. We've got cybersecurity folks. You mentioned Gene Jones, that guy. I'll never forget how well he impressed me early on as I was getting to know him. He was doing a little 1-hour in-house session for us. And he was talking about, okay, let's talk about your passwords and how strong they are. And I thought, well, I'm pretty good. And he's just up in the front of the class and he says, if your passwords are one of these, and he throws like 5 or 8 up there, and he says, you need to do better. And one of them was mine. I was like, are you kidding me?
That's awesome.
I need to listen to that one.
Yeah.
and several others. Quality is one of our big deals. A lot of organizations, especially if you're in automotive, you got to be ISO, IATF, some type of certification. And we've got folks who come in and literally will set up the entire program for a company who's just starting that journey, so they can pass their surveillance audits and get their certifications. They come in and we teach internal auditors, so they've got that. They can do it in-house. Safety, quality, on-time delivery, and cost, and everything that goes into that.
Right.
We're in it. We are in it.
So all sorts of amazing resources that you have access to. And of course, there's an MEP in all 50 states. So even if if there's a subject matter expert outside of Indiana, you can pull that person in. You have access to third-party resources. So again, you're just a powerhouse of information, tools, assets that help a manufacturer. Just, and again, so many manufacturers feel, they're, like you said, here you're tackling this massive project and you had no idea that the MEP even existed, right?
And sometimes it's nice when you understand that, just to reach out and get a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh perspective, a little extra horsepower. All those things can help. Absolutely.
Exactly. All right. So let's dig into your superpower. So we were just sharing before we went live. So I'm blessed and fortunate. I have a client that I work with through the Purdue MEP, and they were going on and on workforce challenges that they have. And I was like, hey, I have just the guy for you. I have a guy, right? And I sent several of your videos that I actually put in the comment section here with our live today. And boy, they were blown away. And I get a note back. Hey, Kurt, by the way, we're working with Jeremiah in person. So kudos to you. You're doing an amazing job. So talk a little bit about the type of work that you do. What are what are you seeing on the street? How are you helping your clients win the day with your leadership development and workforce solutions?
Sure. When we started our leadership series a handful of years ago, maybe 6 years ago, TikTok, it goes by quick. A handful of years ago, it was answering the call from a lot of our clients who said, you know what, we've promoted in-house supervisors. And what we've done is we've taken people who were really good technically, mechanically. They were great operators, right? And we've promoted them. And what we're running into is they don't have the people skills to lead people, right? And so we put together a 9-day series that runs every 3 weeks. And we essentially started their journey down that path. Hey, let's try to grow these leaders into actual leaders, right? We then have fairly recently, within the last couple of years, launched an upper management leadership series. So the original one was for those leads, team leads, supervisors, floor folks. This other one, we tend to get the senior leadership team, the presidents, CFOs, and so on, HR directors. That one's a 10-day series, still has the same cadence. Every 3 weeks we get together and we just drill further into culture building and strategic alignment, vision, mission, values. How do you live vision, mission, values, for example? A lot of folks, real life, real talk. When I ask people, hey, what are your vision, mission, values? They got to look them up, right? Right there tells me there's a disconnect. It don't mean nothing. It's something you print on a mug or a T-shirt or posters up somewhere, right? So how do we make these things living, breathing things? And what I will say to kind of tie this up here is the last couple years, well, even before COVID, last year before COVID, we've been getting sucked up into this massive need for employee attraction and retention. So the beautiful thing is all the stuff we were already doing for the leadership side of things was always something that moved the needle on retention and, to be honest, on attraction as well. But as we've dived more deeply into this employee attraction and retention issue and blended it with leadership and sometimes some other things like lean, if I've got 40 open positions, do I really need 40 people? Or could you look at your process and understand that you really only need 36 if you set it up the right way, right?
Yeah.
So, most of our work has been down that road tied to the retention, which I'm going to say is linked to the attraction side, because there's something I like to call word on the street, right? Word on the street. So think about this. If you're an employer, what do your employees do when they go home at the end of the day? Who do they talk to and what do they talk about? Right? So if you're a toxic type of a workplace, hey, that's going to spread the word on the street you don't want. If you're the opposite, good culture, good leadership, genuinely about people, right? They say this, they spread that message too. And I'll tell you, when it comes to attraction, your employees for most organizations, they're your best recruiters or not, one or the other. They're active one way or the other. Right. They're not sitting idly still. They talk. It's happening.
Right. And it's up to you on, hey, enthusiasm and negativity spreads just as fast, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, negativity probably actually spreads faster. So, you can determine that outcome. And I love what you're saying about culture. Damon, what do you think?
Well, and you see this in good manufacturing companies that have good culture, I should say, because employees they'll try to get family hired. They'll try to get friends hired. They'll try to tell everybody about it, right? Because they want their family to work in a place. I think to me, that is one of the biggest things is when you see someone trying to get a family member hired, you know that they like it enough to do that because they wouldn't do that if they thought it was a bad place to work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely on point right there. Absolutely on point.
And Whitney, she confirms 100% negativity spreads faster. So Whitney, thank you for confirming that for us. So when you have some, again, I dropped your videos. I love your videos, Jeremiah. Guys, if you're looking for some leadership tips, you definitely want to check out Jeremiah. You have people are working, but are they working for you? And what I absolutely love what you're talking about is culture. And you have another great video. And so if anybody from the 80s, Damon, you're from the 80s, right? Remember there's a woman named Tina Turner. Remember Tina Turner? Yeah. She had a great song. It said, "What's culture got to do with it?" Or something like, I think it was something like that, right? Or
something
maybe
like that, yeah.
What's love got to do? I don't know. But we're going to talk about culture. But Jeremiah, you have a great video. It's what's culture got to do with it. We're going to do karaoke at the end of the program here today. But what does culture have to do with it? Let's talk about, take a deep dive, man, just enlighten us on how you help folks on that culture front.
Absolutely. And Damon, what's in that cup? Are you prepping for the karaoke?
Yeah, I'm getting ready for karaoke.
We all know how this works on these teams.
Yeah. Three bad singers are going, but that's going to come at the top of the hour. We are doing Tina Turner, but anyway, we'll save it. I don't want to ruin the surprise.
All right.
Yeah, don't want to ruin the surprise.
So, I do have, coming from automotive especially, I'm sure you folks understand that industry is highly process driven. We want to focus on processes big time. And we always are pursuing automation and poke yoking, error proofing, removing the opportunity for human error. Right. And my position is clear. Your culture will make or break you. I don't care how robust your systems are. I don't care how much error proofing you've put into your systems. At the end of the day, do people do the right things when no one's looking? Even on simple things like automation, someone could say, well, we fully automated. We got cobots and robots and whatever bots, right? So everything's automated. How could a toxic culture screw that up? People aren't even involved. Well, periodically, what do you got to do with these things? They need oil, they need check, they need maintenance, right? They need calibrated. You cannot outspend and you cannot outprocess poor leadership, which builds culture. So I guess let me dive into it this way.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier, a lot of folks are promoted based off technical skills, mechanical skills. And they're what I refer to as homegrown leaders. And I am a fan of that process. You promote from within, give people an opportunity if they so want it. There are a few issues with these homegrown leaders. One of which is that every time they've been promoted, they just got promoted to their highest level of incompetence because they have never done it before, right? It ain't their fault. You just threw them out to it. And so what happens is these folks are trying to situate themselves. They want to do well. They're not sure which way to go. but the heart's in the right place. And so they think, well, I got a new job title. I got maybe a bump in pay. And now I kind of view myself as part of the management team. So what should I start doing? I guess I should start managing people. Now, I will say this. Years and years of experience prior to joining Purdue, and of course, 5.5 years and then some with Purdue, working with organizations all over the place. I say with an absolutely crystal clear conscience, most people in most organizations are overmanaged and under-led. There is a game-changing difference. Now, to be world-class, to be best of the best, you want to be good at both. But let me tell you the differentiator, right? Management is for processes. Leadership is for people. People don't like to be managed. People do not like to be managed, right? So I want that continuity, the predictability, the stability in my processes. That's where I need management. People need something different. So these folks who are homegrown leaders now, they're trying to sort themselves out, figure out how to move forward. And they say, well, I'm a manager. I'm going to start managing. So we just mentioned people don't like to be managed, but that's the road they start to go down. Now, when they start to go down that road, there starts to become a perception of them. And this is one of the things I define to folks early in my courses. So they start to be perceived as what I call a boss. When I say the word boss, think of the worst person you ever worked for in your entire life.
I am right now. Right, David?
Yeah.
Doesn't take most of us very long, right? Someone jumps in our head. And it's funny, you know, when I go on a plant tour or when I'm visiting a facility, you know, we do a walk around. And let me tell you something, I can see when the person escorting me around is a boss, right? Because what do you think people do when the boss hits the floor? One of two things. Yep, they'll run away if they're fast enough, don't make eye contact, and scatter. I mean, you'll see them do a U-turn in the gangway. I mean, they will literally flip and run, right? So if they're fast enough, they'll do that. If they're not fast enough, they get caught out. Well, then they have to tighten up, start looking busy, right? Tighten up a little bit. So if we all understand that's what happens when a boss hits the floor, we should go ahead and finish the line of logic there and ask ourselves, what do people do when the boss leaves the floor? Do they do the right thing when no one's looking? And with bosses, they kind of create a toxic environment, right? And very few people are willing to do even the fundamental basic right things. They're just trying to skate through and not get yelled at or fired that day, right? Because that's the type of culture. So what's a leader then? Well, my personal definition of a leader is it's someone who gets the willing participation of others to follow a vision. Willing participation are key words there. Bosses push people around. You can only push people so far and for so long, but leaders don't push, we pull, right? So we pull. Now, when I do these sessions in person and I'm launching a group in a new series, I always have fun with them and I'll ask them, tell me what you guys build. And the majority of the time, you know, the folks in the room tell me about their products. And then I hold them up and I say, well, you are leaders. This is leadership training. Your people make your products. What leaders build are people and history. What leaders build are people and history. And those two things work together in the background over time to build your career legacy as a leader. And you're already building it. And a lot of us haven't connected these dots. Therefore, we may not be leaving a legacy we would be proud of. We might actually unintentionally even be leaving a legacy of a boss, right? If that's a possibility, who cares? That's yesterday. Today can be one of those line in the sand moments. Start leading with intent, build that people and history. And what I'm talking about with that legacy and that people and history, Kurt, Damon, this goes right back to the question. What I'm talking about is culture. That's what you're building. What do people remember 5 years from now, what are they going to remember? The products you kicked out the door that day or the culture? That's what we all remember. So culture is critical to everything you do. I'm just going to tell you, I know we're short on duration and time here, but the culture, you will feel it good or bad in every metric. I don't care what metrics you come up with. You're going to see it. The needle's going to move some direction based off that culture. And then what I usually get are people ask me, well, okay, if I would like to start building this people and history with intent, this culture, how do I do it? Where do I start? Well, I'll answer that by first saying where you don't do it. You don't do it by rebranding your vision, mission, values, and having a chili cook-off and throwing T-shirts out of a cannon at everybody, right? That's cool stuff. That's neat, but that don't do it. That don't change culture. So how do you build culture? It's quite simple. Every time we have an interaction with our coworkers, above, below, beside us, I don't care what level of the org, all levels, every time we have an interaction with our coworkers, it is in that very moment that that person feels trusted or not, respected or not, appreciated. You see where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. That's where culture gets built. It's in 1,000 interactions we have all day, every day. You can't talk about it. You got to be about it. It's not what you say. It's how you live, right? That's what sets the culture. It is your daily permissible norms, which is essentially the way I like to say it. It's how you live at work. I don't care what's on your policy. It ain't worth the paper it's printed on if that's not what people do out on the floor, right? How do people live? Do we walk right on by safety concerns? Well, you can do all the safety shares you want. People see you walk right on by hazards, open cabinet, electrical panels. You're telling everybody, we talk about safety here. We don't care about safety here. Those things resonate. They speak louder than anything you can print or say. If you want the right culture, you got to build it. You got to build it with intent. And to me, your best chance is your first chance. It should start in onboarding and continue on every day into every refresher training you do. And every day you have a chance to interact with those people on the floor. I took up a lot of time on that. I apologize. You got me going, man.
Dude, like we're just, that was
awesome.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
man, look at this truth.
I was writing notes.
I love
cool.
office space. Man, we got the TPS reports. Damon.
Yeah, the TPS.
Damon, did you get your TPS reports in? We need to talk about those. But,
I submitted them.
I want to work Saturday.
Jeremiah, I would love if you could spare a couple more minutes. I feel like dude, you are on fire.
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
That was so good. Can you complete that sentence? Willing participation of, can you finish that for me?
Yes. A leader gets the willing participation of others to follow a vision. Willing participation of others to follow a vision. And essentially, I got to have a vision in the first place, right? So let's go to the culture side. You've only got two types of cultures. One that is intentional. I have a vision of the way we live on a daily basis, and I drive it like a process. So if I don't have an intentional culture, you have probably the wishful culture where the whole management team sits around and says, I wonder why morale is so low around here, right? There's only one of those two types. Every organization has one of those two types. So if I want the intentional culture, then I better have a vision of the way we treat each other, respect each other, listen to each other, and so on. Then I communicate that vision over and over and over again, and all the ways it takes to get it. Here's a funny question, guys. Where does communication occur? Right? Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot. But when I ask that, where does communication occur? Everyone gives me the same answers everywhere. And I say, yeah, trying to dial in a little tighter, right? Well, the break room, emails, phone, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the deal. Communication occurs in the mind of the receiver. When I get what's here vividly and explicitly in the mind of the receiver, all these other ways communication happens, yes, they're true, but where's the one place it truly occurs? In the mind of the receiver. And it's a lot harder to get in there than most people realize. So I have to communicate that vision over and over and over again until I get my folks to see it. Then once they start to see it, we can start to collaborate. I don't take the boss approach and say, here's what you're going to do to drive my vision. I'll ask the right questions. Okay, team, you see the vision. How can we get there? Basic collaboration. Let people get some skin in the game. Let them feel like they got a voice, right? Let them get involved.
Right.
So start collaborating, and then that vision, they see it, it becomes our vision. And then you just drive continuous improvement and build trust is the shortest way I could describe it. That builds a beautiful culture. Truly engaged, truly connected, empowered even. All these buzzwords people like to use, but they don't know how to achieve it.
Right. And I tell you, you do. Go ahead, Damon. Go ahead.
You said one word that really makes this stand out is intentional. Yep. This doesn't just happen by accident. It happens by making a plan, executing the steps you need. It doesn't just happen because I want to feel good someday and do this. You have to work at it just like you have to work at getting really good at making the products you do. You have to work at developing the right culture. It's intentional.
Yep. I view it exactly that way. It's a process, just like your physical process to make your products. I mean, inputs and outputs.
Yep.
I'm I had such high expectations for this conversation. Like, you've just completely crushed it, Jeremiah. So I want to recap a couple of things. And again, I want to be mindful of your time, but I have to ask, we got to hang out with us for one more minute.
Sure.
So, all right, be about it. People in history. I hate to say it. When you asked that question, I would have said, well, the break room, the after, in the parking lot. Hey, can you believe, the gossip, right? Mm-hmm. And, not thinking it's in the receiver, dude. That is so, in my, I'm sorry, this isn't my jam, workforce development leadership, but that is so transformational, because if I'm a toxic, if I'm not happy, somebody hurt my feelings on the floor, and when I am in the parking lot, hey, Damon, can you believe what they did? Can you, it's so unfair, But the thing is that as a worker, if I don't feel, you're mentioning that connection, I don't feel that trust, I don't feel appreciated, everything that you just talked about, dude, you're giving me chills. This is so good. Now, Jeremiah, you've written a couple books, if I'm not mistaken. The field, Damon, you love this. The field does not come to the farmer.
Yes.
Damon, did you know that the field doesn't come to the farmer?
Yeah, I had to go to a lot of them when I was growing up.
Right. So, and one is leading Gen Y and Gen Z, and another one is on great management leadership. Jeremiah, what inspired you to write these books? Can you just share a little bit about these books for anybody out there listening who wants to learn more?
Sure. I had a lot of thoughts that I formed over the years, of course, through work and through life. And I thought at some point, someday I need to put pen to paper and jot some of these things down. And the motivation was really just that. There was nothing grandiose. I just thought, okay, let me go ahead and put some stuff together. But the way I've put those few books together, and if I do any more, I kind of am going about it with this theme, I guess. I like keeping them short, fairly short. If I write a 10,000 page book, ain't nobody going to read it. Right. So keep them fairly short, easy to digest, and narrow the topic to some discipline or another. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to keep these kind of short and maybe run a series, what are a couple of the first things I would want to start with? Well, the first one to me was leading Gen Y and Z. That was a no-brainer to me, because I'm just going to tell you, I hear so many hiring managers and supervisors on the floor complain about, these kids. And what they say is they're lazy and entitled. I got to tell you something. They're not. They are not. Mm-hmm. The problem is the things that connect with and motivate them are way different than the things that connect with and motivate a baby boomer, for example. So if you take, well, if I'm a baby boomer and I prefer my style, of course we all do, we like our own styles, then I try to treat people in the way that I think is the right way. And if that don't fit, we're pushing people out the door, not because they're lazy or entitled, because we totally whiffed. If you have someone willing to show up in your four walls and a roof, and they're willing to give you a chance and they don't make it a week, you got to start blaming the people and start looking inward and saying, what am I doing wrong? Right. So I started with that one. And then I went on to great management leadership to try and drive home the fact that we need to be good at managing and leading. I sometimes come across like I'm beating up management. Mm-hmm. I'm not, but the reality is most people overemphasize management and underemphasize leadership, and you die 1,000 deaths from it. Yeah. And the whole title of the series is "The Field Does Not Come to the Farmer" for one primary reason. You got to meet the need where it is. Your team's performance is a direct reflection of your performance as a leader. If you have an underperforming team, you better find a way to adjust, adapt, and overcome to get them going, even if that's a way that is unnatural or uncomfortable to you, right? It isn't about me getting myself going. It's me getting my whole team going. And that means if I've got 10 different people, that might be 10 different buzzers that get those people going. But I gotta find which one works for every person, because you know how it works. A high performing team comes from high performing individuals. And I got to hit everyone where they're at to get them going. That's a burden. That's part of it, comes with the job.
Man, this is so good. And the thing, and it's so unfortunate that, like Gen X and baby boomers, like it's like all these kids, because guess what, the generation before us, when we,
said the same thing.
Yeah. And it goes right down the line. I studied Rockefeller, and you talk about the early generation oil guys. They were completely griping about these young kids that wanted to change oil and get into this new technology called the automobile. And that thing's never going to work. Right.
Yeah.
And there was a huge friction between the 50-somethings and the 20-somethings, because this is how we've done oil. This is how we're always going to do it. Nobody's going to put oil in this car. I'm going to get it back on my horse, So I want to be mindful of your time. Can I ask you one last question, please?
Definitely.
Okay. You have a great video, and you talk about a gentleman. If I can share, it's on your video, so I'm assuming I can share.
Definitely.
A manager who had a horrific batting average, trying to communicate, connect with folks on open job positions.
Yes.
You had an amazing change. Could you please share that with everybody on what you did?
Absolutely. And it's a beautiful example, possibly my favorite, of reemphasizing the message. As a leader, I got to find a way to meet the need where it is, right? So one of my participants was going through one of our series. It was the first wave for him. And at the start of the series, he mentioned that he had posted a job. He had 354 people apply. And so he started calling to set up interviews. Okay, he's got 354. And he thought, well, I know how the world is. I'm going to overcall. So he tried to schedule interviews with 160, 165 people. Just kept calling and leaving voicemails. He ultimately got 11 people to come in for an interview. So 354 people found your posting and applied. You could only get 11 to come in for an interview. Now, a lot of folks would sit there and say, well, told you these kids are lazy and entitled, right? Okay, well, we spent some time together, and his project was on retention. And he said, okay, for my next one, let me try something different. He posted another job, had about the same number of applicants, and understanding how do different generations prefer to communicate. And he thought, well, Gen Y and Z now make up more than 50% of the available workers out there. So odds are these people who are applying are probably Gen Y and Z. How do they like to communicate? Do they like to answer the phone and talk to people for numbers they don't recognize? No, maybe I should try to text. And he texted. And I'll tell you, this man is what I would refer to as a seasoned veteran, which is a polite way of saying he's a little older than me, right? The seasoned veteran. Do you think he was great at texting? Do you think he liked to text all these people? But he had to choose his heart, adapt and overcome, and that's hard, but he did it, and his response rate went way up. Or he could choose his other hard, which is stay the same and do it the way he likes. Just keep calling 180 people who don't answer the phone.
Right.
Either way is going to be hard. You got to pick one, right? So he met the need where it was. I'm proud of him for that.
Yeah, that was, and here's our dear friend. So Jeremiah, this is Diane. She's with TAC. You're familiar with the Midwest TAC. She's from the Mid-Atlantic TAC. Appreciate where your people are at. Gold. Everyone comes to a situation with their own background, experience, education, appreciation. Great conversation. And Whitney says, "Who wants to talk on the phone anymore?" And I'll go back to Whitney's comment here. That's busy work. If I'm calling 160 people, right? Just think of how much time, how inefficient that is anymore. So for all of us Gen Xers, baby boomers out there, we need to get with the times. Jeremiah, I'll let you go, dude. Thank you. This was just a masterclass in leadership, communication, connection. Guys, you're just getting a little taste of the amazing, overwhelming amount of talent that is at the MEP network, manufacturing extension partnerships around the country, let alone for you special folks in the great state of Indiana. If you're in Indiana and boy, you haven't connected with Jeremiah, Gene, Art, anybody, Michelle, Julie, anybody on the team at Purdue, boy, do yourself a favor. As a matter of fact, for a shameless plug, we have a great webinar, little workshop. We're doing a little SEO deep dive. I'm doing it with Nicole Donnelly on Wednesday at 12 o'clock at the Purdue MEP. Join us there. We're doing a case study with one of the manufacturers that Jeremiah have both had the honor and privilege of working with together. And so we're going to be hitting that Wednesday. Jeremiah, any parting thoughts, words of wisdom that you want to share with the folks today?
Yeah. Be great, team. Whoever's on here, be great. And if you don't know where to start, just get started. You get better as you go. You get better as you go. Expertise comes from repetition. Repetition comes from practice. Practice comes from just trying that very first time. When you swing and miss, fail forward. Be great.
Dude.
Thank you, guys.
I'm dropping the microphone. I'm just dropping
the mic.
So, guys, wow. Okay. All I can say is, Damon, what do you think of this conversation? Huh? So, guys, go out. You have Damon on Faces of Business. Damon, you've got two great guests coming up on Tuesday and Thursday. We have an amazing guest on manufacturing e-commerce success on Friday. We have
big week.
We have a fantastic guest coming up. So, guys, just do it. Just like Jeremiah just said, go out and just be awesome.
Get out there and get it done.
Yeah. Jeremiah, hang out once.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Have a phenomenal week. Thanks for joining us. If you missed this or you're catching on replay, boy, just keep rewinding it over and over and listening to these truth bombs. So, Jeremiah, thank you guys. Have a great week.
Bye, guys.